Hi all, welcome to another exciting bonus episode. Today, I have a VIP special guest that you will hear me chatting with. Some of you may have seen my Guess Who game that I was trying to play on LinkedIn, and maybe you guessed close. My special guest for this episode is a former professional athlete of 15 years in the rugby league space. He played for the team I barrack for on a local level, the Brisbane Broncos, and played for the team that always wins the State of Origin. Queensland, of course. But he isn't just an ex-athlete, and that's what you're going to hear him talk about in this episode. He's happily married to his beautiful wife, and he's a great father to his 3 children. Since hanging up the playing boots, he's become a mental health advocate, sharing his personal story with audiences nationwide. This episode comes to you the week of Are You OK Day. So while you're listening to this special guest speak, try to think about all the high-profile people that you may look up to, aspire to be like, etc. And then think about your friends and family that you may not know too much about. Because for me, what I got out of this insightful episode is that we're all just people. No one is exempt from the challenges that life can throw at us, and no amount of money, assets, material possessions can change that. So, without further ado, let's get into this insightful episode with my new friend, Darius Boyd. So hi Darius, thanks for coming along and sharing your time and insights with me and our listeners. I know you've got a lot of commitments now, so I'm truly appreciative for your time. Before we get into the formalities, I'd love to know what you're doing with yourself these days. Obviously, league took up a lot of your time and probably didn't leave much time for anything else. So since hanging up the boots, how has life been? Have you got more work-life balance?
Yeah, it's really good, thanks. Yeah, I think I do have better balance. I have my weekends back, which is nice to spend with family and my 3 girls. I'm doing a bit, mostly my work with at the Broncos still, a bit of positional coaching, and a bit of work in their community spaces through some of their school programs and ambassador work as well. Do some resilience workshops through their school programs too, which is something I'm enjoying. And yeah, that mental health space is something I'm really passionate about, doing a bit of study in that area and doing some private workshops in the community and some corporate spaces as well. So yeah, I see myself long term moving into that mental health space, something I'm really passionate about, giving back, helping others, and I have a lived experience in that area, so I'd love to help anyone out where I can.
That's great. So let's get into those 3 general questions that I ask all of my special guests. Obviously happy for you to answer in context with what you've seen with the organisations perhaps that you've worked with, or maybe even the teams that you've been a part of. So the first question is, what do you think makes an effective leader when it comes to health and safety?
Yeah, it's a good question. I really just think an effective leader is, has that holistic approach to the individual and well-being, I suppose, and they're living by example. They're setting that example, and what they're trying to tell you is something that they wouldn't do themselves, or vice versa. I just think really making sure that end of the day, you're managing people as a leader, you're managing the person, and you're in a different, whatever industry you're in, that you've got to have the qualifications, and we all understand that. But to get the best out of the individual, they're going to have challenges and struggles away from work, and if you can manage them as a whole person, and understand, show a bit of care, build rapport, trust, those type of things, then I think as a leader, you're going to get the best out of that individual. Yeah. And they're in your workforce because they're good at what they do. They have that piece of paper, they've got the accreditation, but to get the best out of them, you've got to understand them as a person, and then once you do that and you can build that connection and put them in an environment to thrive, then I think you're going to get the best out of each and every person. And that's, I think, how you become a good leader and have a good aspect on health and safety.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you, and I've definitely had some previous sort of episodes around trust and empathy, but also taking the time to get to know your people more on a personal level. Yeah. If you come at it from that sort of hard approach, as I'm your manager, do as I say but not as I do, because they are a bit different. So definitely leading by example. And what would be your words of wisdom for someone dealing with people who don't want to change when it comes to health and safety?
Yeah, that's a hard one. I think at the end of the day, I've found in my experience that you just got to do what you understand, what you can control, and look after yourself. And that probably sounds quite closed off and negative, but sometimes when it's hard to change what you can't control. So you can put resources in front of people. You can try a collaborative approach. You can try and help educate and understand, and maybe pull someone aside and have a conversation one-on-one. Yeah. But ultimately, you can give them all the help and the education pieces of paper, the knowledge, but
Yeah.
you can't make them. You lead a horse to water, you can't make it drink. So at the end of the day, you can try and help do your best, but at the end of the day, look after yourself. And I think leading by example and with your actions and what you think health, safety, well-being looks like, and doing that to the best of your ability, because then I think you can rest at night, lay your head on the pillow knowing you've done as much as you can, and the rest is out of your hands. I think sometimes worrying about things out of your control is not going to help you individually. So while you want to make a change, make a difference, and that's important, all you can do is do your best, give out the resources and the knowledge, have a conversation, then it's up to them whether they make the change or not.
It's the old hand on heart test, isn't it? I used to say if I go to sleep at night knowing I did everything I could with my hand on my heart to get the message across or positively influence, then I've done my job.
Well, I think that's how you I think that's how you live and thrive and flourish in life. If you do the best that you could possibly do, and every day in every situation you've lived up to your values and your beliefs and what you believe in, and you can rest your head at night knowing you're a good person, then that's going to be successful for you. Yeah,
no, definitely agree. And finally, if you could invent something to solve a health and safety issue in the workplace where expenditure, opinions, all of that didn't matter, what would it be for you and why?
Yeah, it's a really hard one. I really think, whatever workforce you're in, I think if you go back to the very start and putting health, safety and well-being in to the curriculum as far as whatever you're learning, and being part of, I suppose, the study course or the criteria to become qualified in whatever industry. Because I think then if you're learning it from, an early age and from the get-go and showing how important that is within each industry, then you're going to have a bit of a understanding around it and education, knowledge, and know how important it is straight away, and not learning later in life when your team or the environment isn't successful. It's, what's wrong with it? Why is this happening? And kind of playing, being reactive instead of proactive. So, I mean, that's a hard question, but I think if we did that, then you're going to find better people in organisations that can actually look after these events instead of being the most qualified, but probably not the best manager or holistic view of a person. And I think that's, what I think would probably work, but it'd be
the Darius Boyd curriculum of health and safety and well-being, hey?
But it'd be, it's not an easy implementation, but it's something that I think could be positive for sure.
That would be great. That'd be great. So I understand, obviously, you're currently a mental health advocate, and with Are You OK Day almost upon us and the Mental Health Month happening as well, it's probably the perfect time, I guess, for you to share your story and perhaps your journey with our listeners. For those of you that don't know, your story and what you've been through, did you want to perhaps share that with us?
Yeah, for sure. So I think for me, it's something that I really get a lot of satisfaction out of sharing now. I think it's something that I was someone who was quite young and never shared my story or spoke up or asked for help, and it's something that I found very therapeutic and rewarding since. And when you do that, you realise that you're not alone, and so many people everyone has a story. Some are harder than others, but at the end of the day, it's individual to you, it's personalised, and it's hard for you. But my story, I had a bit of a troubling childhood, I guess. Really small family dynamic. Never met my father. Uncle and grandfather were my, I suppose, mentors and role models, father figures. And they actually passed away when I was 8 and 11. And so for me, no father figures, and had lost for different reasons, and didn't really understand that at a young age. Probably had a lot of resentment and trust issues, and a lot of loss and grief in different ways. Only child, no siblings. So my mum did a great job holding the fort down. And then when I was 15, she was diagnosed with major depression. So she left to get help, professional help with her mental health and well-being, which was great for her. But at that age, 20 years ago now, we're still talking about well-being and mental health and the stigma and awareness around it. 20 years ago, it was non-existent really. So, and I was a 15-year-old boy going through adolescence and a lot of different things. For me to understand that at a young age, I really just didn't cope well. I just felt like for me personally that all my closest circle and trust and support network was leaving, and for different reasons. So I moved in with my grandmother, which she did a great job, and had a really close bond with her. She helped me get to rugby league training and school, and started packing lunches as a 70-year-old woman again. So it wasn't easy for her, but we made it work. And so that was my childhood journey. I think I had a really fixed mindset, and like I said, a lot of probably different emotions, probably negative, leading up from in my late teens, my early adult years. Then rugby league become my outlet, become my everything. It was the one thing that had been around since I can remember, since I was 6 years old. So I put all my eggs in one basket, I guess, and it did a great job for me. I guess it got me to where I got to in my rugby league career and helped me realise my dreams and potential. But at the same time, it ended up being my downfall, my undoing, because I put rugby league first, family and friends, support network second, and I learnt the hard way that when rugby league wasn't going well, injury, criticism, social media, team performance, individual performance, my whole world came crashing down because I didn't have anything else supporting me through, and some resilient strategies, I guess, in place. So 2014, I checked myself into a mental health facility. It was the best thing I ever did. It's something I wish I did 10 years earlier. I was 27 when I did that, and just learned positive psychology and ways to grow your mindset and strategies around building resilience. And it started with reconnecting with my mum. I hadn't spoken to her for 8 years, so I reconnected with her. My wife and I's relationship was pretty rocky at the time, so I had to repair that. Just making a better effort with friends and family. I needed to grow my support network. I only had my mum and my grandmother and my wife, so I needed to grow some external people in my support network, people I could trust and count on. Get out in the community, give back, help others, a bit of empathy, a bit of compassion. It just really changed my mindset and my outlook moving forward. And that was something that, like I said, I wish I did it sooner, but it was such a uplifting experience to go and work on yourself. I spent 3 weeks in a facility to work on myself, share with other people that are going through some challenges. Just really being a comfortable space to know that you're not alone, and that it's non-judgmental. You can really share, open up. You can get gratitude and empathy and compassion from hearing someone else's story. And it was just a really experience for me that I needed. And then ever since then, I've been working on my own well-being and resilience moving forward, and then really found a passion and desire outside of rugby league to, now that rugby league's finished for me, that I've found something that I'm a bit of a meaning and a purpose, I guess, that I can really put all my efforts in obviously continuing to help myself, help my young children that I have, but also help the wider community in that space as well. So doing a bit of study in that area, and really looking forward and excited for the future.
That's great. Thank you for sharing that with us. I guess, given your story and your experiences, is there anything that you would say to people who are perhaps in a similar boat, whether it be rugby league or, they've obviously placed value on things that potentially, shouldn't have the value it has, or, it needs to be reprioritised? Was there any advice you could give to someone who's perhaps in that kind of similar boat to where you were at that stage?
Yeah, I think it's just being really careful and mindful not to attach your self-worth to your job or a certain part of you. I think we're, as people, there's different parts to us. We're a husband, a father, a son, a colleague, a teammate. There's so many different things that make up you as a person. But sometimes, if, for example, myself, I attach my self-worth to rugby league. So when rugby league wasn't going well, I was a bad person, or I felt negatively of myself, or and I think a lot of people do that. You have a lot, they say you change career paths 3 times in a lifetime. So if you attach your self-worth to your career and then made redundant, or you lose your job, or whatever happens, you don't want your self-worth and you to come crashing down. So I think being mindful of while your work is important, it pays the bills, and you enjoy what you do, hopefully. You're valued in your community, you do all these other things, and you're a big part of not just your self-worth is probably made up of 5 or 6 different things. I think that's important to remember, so that when one thing in life doesn't go well, there's still 5 or 6 that you're ticking a box and doing well in life. So it means that, okay, that's not good, but hey, I'm still doing really well on all these other aspects, and I'm still a good person, still a good human, and I just need to make a change in this area.
And what about if they are at the point where basically they do need to reach out for help? Is there any words of wisdom or tips you can give to someone that's literally at that point where they do need to seek further assistance? Yeah,
I think generally just making sure you're sharing along the way, and they say problem shared is a problem halved. So make sure you are sharing, and find someone that you can trust and share. But then just put your hand up, ask for help. Look into, there's different websites, organisations, there's forums, you can chat online, email. There's so many phone services you can call. Otherwise, professional help. I always talk about professional help as like coaching. Like if everyone stigma around psychologists, psychiatrists, counsellors. But you get a real estate agent to help you find a house. You get a financial planner to do your tax. You come to a lawyer. Sort out differences in certain situations. You see all these different nutritionists for your diet. You see all these different people that are experts in their field. So why wouldn't you see psychologist, counsellor, psychiatrist to be work on your mindset. And it's a very important part of you and who you are.
Yeah.
It's just really just like a coach. To get I've been seeing a psychologist for almost 10 years now, and when I've had my first child coming along, I was asking him, well, I've never had a father, so how do I become a dad? He's given me some really good tips on fatherhood and advice, and he said there's two things to look at it. You don't have to look at it as a negative, because you weren't in an abusive, you didn't have an abusive father or a negative, I suppose, mentor or father to look at. You never had one, so you can kind of make up, I've got two mates that had really good dads, so I can take a little bit of that. I like how they approach fatherhood, and I can take a bit of this and a bit of a mentor, and I can try and put them all together and be a really, really good dad. I don't have a bad example of a father, so you can look at it as a positive way. So just getting some tips and advice, and like I said, just look at it as coaching. You want to coach your mind, you want to coach your body, you get a personal trainer. There's two different things you do, and you seek professionals. Why wouldn't you seek a professional for your well-being and to have a really good outlook and a growth mindset as well?
Yeah, no, I 100% agree with you. That's great insights, and I guess great advice as well for anyone that's listening in that may be, at that stage in life, or perhaps at the point where they really do need to seek help. So appreciate your time, and obviously, and for sharing that personal journey with us and our listeners on this. So thanks again for popping in and being a special guest on the podcast.
No worries, thanks for having me.
Awesome.
So there you have it, an insightful look into the life of one of rugby league's most awesome players. Remember, this week on Thursday is Are You OK Day. Please take the time to do a self-check and ask yourself, are you okay? And then reach out if you need to. But please, if you can, take the time to also reach out to your friends and your family and ask them, are they really okay? Do what you can to dig deeper, to find that out, because you just don't know where their mindset might be at that little moment in time. You could be the sign that changes everything for them. Thank you again for tuning in. Until next time, stay safe.